I'd like to call this meeting to order. And normally at this time, we would recognize any visitors that might be here on any matters unrelated to what's on the business, but I don't think we do. And so next item would be consideration for minutes of August 7th, 2024.
I move we accept the minutes as presented for August 7th, 2024.
A motion made by Barry. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. And so this will be the hearing portion of the meeting. And just as a reminder, the Board of Adjustments is a quasi-judicial body and its rulings are final. Any appeals to the Board of Adjustment rulings must be filed with the Circuit Court within 30 days of said ruling. Amanda, would you like to share what, and I guess we don't have counsel tonight. So.
Correct, yes.
All right, so do you affirm or swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, thank you.
Yeah.
Good evening, Commissioners. So this evening before you is 628 Boulder Court. It is in a R1 zone. So I'm going to zoom out of the house so you'll see this is in Stony Creek subdivision on one of the newer streets there. In this larger overall subdivision, of course, my mapping kicks out to an older year, but you can still see kind of the area which they are applying for. So the zoning there is R1 single family residential, but in this particular neighborhood we do have what we call a PUD overlay, so planned unit development, where there would be a mix of multifamily, commercial, duplex, a lot of different residential type housing. This evening the applicants are requesting a short conditional use for short-term rental. As you know, we've recently changed our regulations, whereas in those R1, R2 zones, we are still hearing these applications. So I will just remind you of those conditions that we have put on previous short-term rentals, and those were a 10 p.m. check-in, that it goes with the conditional use goes with the property owner, and a maximum occupant load based on 2 off-street parking, which they have, and then the maximum occupant load based on 200 square feet per person. All notices have been sent as required by statute, and after we hear from the applicant, I do have a letter to read.
New business, which is Alexis Moreno Trillo, 628 Boulder Court, a conditional use request for a short-term rental in an R1 single-family residential zone. At this time, if anybody would like to come up and just share what you'd like to do and what you'd propose,
You can get to this podium.
I'll swear you in.
Thank you.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, great. State your name and address and what you'd like to do.
Yes. My name is Alexis Jared Moreno Trillo, and we live in 113 Short Street in Richmond, and we recently moved there for a number of reasons, and one of them was to be a little bit closer to Lexington, since that's where my wife works. And we wanted to keep our house in Berea, so we decided to rent it, and we listed it on Airbnb. And later we received a letter, and that's where we learned that we needed a conditional use permit. And so we called immediately after we read the letter, and but that's what we wanted to do with the property. Yeah.
Amanda, do you have a recollection of the nearest approved conditional use for short-term rental from this location?
If you'll, I can look it up. I'm just gonna disconnect my computer for just a second, cause
Oh,
it'll take
okay.
me, I did not look that up before
Okay.
the meeting,
I don't,
so
I'm just
let-
not recalling anything close by.
Let me
so
find
that's-
that.
Okay.
Melissa, do you, off the top of your head, remember? It seems like we have one other in,
I don't believe we have any in
Stony Creek.
Stony Creek. We have a conditional use for a home-based business, but not.
That's what it was. Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, thank
It's
you.
neurofeedback.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a different home-based business, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Melissa. So I can, again, we did receive one public comment.
Sure. If you want-
If the board would like to hear that.
Yes, please.
This came from Rashila Smith at 624 Boulder Court, so the house just to the right. I hope this message finds you well. I'm writing to express my concern about a neighboring property being used as a short-term rental in our community. As a parent, I'm deeply worried about the potential safety risk this brings to the neighborhood, especially for my children. One of my primary concerns is the lack of knowledge regarding who is staying at the property. I'm unaware of any thorough background checks being conducted on guests, which raises fears about potential for unsafe individuals staying in close proximity to my home and family. This unpredictably makes me feel uneasy and leaves me concerned about the safety and security of our community. Additionally, I'm concerned that the presence of a short-term rental could negatively impact the overall property values in the neighborhood. Short-term rentals often lack the long-term commitment and care that full-time residents provide, which may result in poorly maintained properties and increased wear and tear on the neighborhood. This in turn could affect the desirability of our community and the value of our homes. Our neighborhood has always been a safe and peaceful place, and introducing a transient flow of unknown individuals jeopardizes that. I worry that without proper oversight or regulations, it could only be a matter of time before someone gets hurt or our neighborhood's overall safety and property values are compromised. I kindly ask the Berea Board of Adjustments to thoroughly evaluate the situation and consider the impact short-term rentals can have on the security and well-being of residents like myself, as well as the potential long-term effects on property values. Thank you for your attention in this matter. I appreciate your consideration and look forward to your response.
So I have a question. How are you gonna oversee the property to make sure that, you don't get any complaints?
Because we do it through Airbnb, we are able to see who is renting the property. And also, we're able to see what reviews or comments they've had from other Airbnbs that they've stayed at previously. And so, my intention is to only rent it to those that have previously been in other Airbnbs and that have good reviews. And the few that we've had so far are workers, nurses or paramedics that are come for training or purposes like that. Construction as well. We had one, and so so far, I believe that the house is going to be used for work purposes mostly. Yeah.
So if somebody that is staying at the Airbnb has a problem while they're there, like with maintenance or whatever, are you available?
Yes,
to
I am.
them?
I am available to them. Again, we're in Richmond and I work from home, so I have that flexibility to go see the property.
How many
how many times roughly have you rented through Airbnb, and have you ever had any complaints from neighbors or from Airbnb? Have you had any complaints about the folks who are staying on your property?
We haven't had any complaints so far. This is the very first time doing this, but so far it's been very smooth.
And you've had how many folks stay there?
We set it up for 6 guests maximum,
Yeah.
but typically it's about 2 or 3.
And how many times have you rented this unit through Airbnb?
So far we've got about 20 or something like
20?
that. Yeah.
And no complaints in 20?
Mm.
Okay. I have another question for Amanda. Do we have any kind of notion the impact that short-term rentals do indeed have on property values?
So, that's really not been considered. I'll tell you that actually spoke at a, short-term rental, it was through, Mason, and, they did a little short-term rental. I spoke with an operator of one, to a group in Corbin, and it was at a leadership training. And so what I was hoping to gain out of that was to get feedback from other communities, because in Berea we have actually not had any complaints filed for any of the approved short-term rentals. Now, occasionally we will get complaints for those that are not approved, right? So, but they, again, as he stated, as soon as they were notified, followed the process, and, were diligent about getting what they needed.
On
I think in other communities, it's not been an impact of property values, but I will state that some of the concern, particularly around Red River Gorge area, was just about the amount of housing used for short-term rental. But I don't think that we're in that same market. Theirs is really a unique situation, I think, as opposed to communities like ours. In terms of property maintenance code complaints, we have not had any. I will also say that we have recently set up an online registration for short-term rentals. So this, as part of our new regulation, is they will be required to do an annual registration. And what that tells us as a city is, are you still operating it? Who is your 24-hour maintenance contact? Are you a local owner, or are you an away owner? So just kind of a series of questions that helps us to understand, and so that if we do have those complaints, we know who to talk to, and particularly in those emergency situations.
And does anything like that exist for long-term rentals?
It does not. No, it does not.
If you had to say, not to hold you to it, how many approved short-term rentals do you think we have at this point? I want to ask in R1 zones, but I know that might be a little bit harder to answer.
25 off the cuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
20 to 25. So some, have come and gone. Some have told us they aren't operating anymore, or sold the house, whatever. But I'd say a good number, 20, 25.
And how many housing units total are in Berea? You may not know the answer to
No, I
that
don't know the
question.
answer to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't recall the specific meeting, but I do recall hearing testimony identifying improvements to, and this is just one case that I'm thinking of, by a neighboring property owner that thought that the property condition was improved as a result of it being a short-term rental. So I'm just wondering if the flip side, not the concerns, but have you heard anything positive?
We do hear that short-term rental tends to be better taken care of. I think the thing about it is, with particularly owners who are close by, they tend to check on the, you know, lots of those folks are mowing the grass themselves. They're, you know, changing the sheets themselves. They're doing you know, they're cleaning, so they're in that property a lot. And maybe, you know, you could speak to what your plans are in terms of who will do the maintenance. But on those properties where they are locally owned and they do their own maintenance, we have heard that the property is actually better than when it was long-term rental.
Yeah, to that, like, what is your, how do you plan to maintain and the property?
So far, my wife and I both have done all the maintenance of the house. We're there at least once or twice a week, and mainly because we want to make sure that it's appealing and that it is as shown in the pictures when our guests come and stay in the property. And so it's a fairly new house, so far we haven't had to do any heavy maintenance on anything. The appliances and everything are fairly new, but yeah, as far as the landscape and the deep cleaning of the house, we do take care of that. So.
And you mentioned nurses earlier, and that made me wonder, just given the location of this too, like, what is your average stay? Like, I would think that short-term renters would you know, there might be a demographic that is more about just having to go there to work, or as opposed to a location that is sort of a touristy type of, yeah. So I'm just curious, what is your length of stays, and if you could define that demographic that you've experienced so far?
Yeah, I would say about 80% or so have come for work purposes. Average stay, I would say 3 to 4 nights.
Okay.
And when we first listed on Airbnb, we never imagined that was going to be the case. We were thinking about people coming for vacation purposes, stuff like that, but
Right.
that's not the case.
Okay. Well, we have any additional questions? And if not, I'd entertain a motion.
Okay, I make a motion that we approve the conditional use request for a short-term rental at 628 Boulder Court, which is in a R1 zone. The conditional use permit would go with the owner. 200 square foot per person in the unit. I think you said up to 6, is that correct? No later than 10 p.m. check-in, and you have to have at least 2 off-street parking places.
Okay, motion has been made, and for short-term rental at 628 Boulder Court in an R1 zone, with the conditions that it's only applicable to the current owner, and only one person per 200 square feet, with a 10 p.m. check-in, with 2 off-street parking spaces. Any further discussion? Is there a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
And just as a follow-up, I think you've probably already worked through our system, but again, you will need to make sure that you get that business license and that registration.
Okay.
Okay? If you have any questions, just call our office.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Oh, we
Oh,
have
well.
one more discussion.
Sorry. Oh, I
and
see that. Sorry. Thank
That's
you, Mike.
okay. Just need to real quick decide on a holiday schedule. So we know that we have an application for a conditional use next month. And that our normal meeting date would be the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, so the 23rd. So I wanted to give you guys the option, no,
October.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, they need to push the meeting to November. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
That is not next
What
month.
altered
Katie's
universe?
looking at me weird and I'm going, what did I say wrong? Sorry. Next, in November, they had a conflict for our October meeting, sorry.
Okay.
So they need to push the meeting to November.
Okay.
And that, regularly scheduled meeting date is the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. So I wanted to see if we wanted to back that up a week. Yes, I see nods. Okay. So we will plan for, November. I might have looked at my calendar wrong. Let me just make sure. Is that the 16th?
13th?
Oh, the 20th, yes. I did look, that's what I did wrong. I looked at my calendar wrong. I looked at it for October instead of November. So that, so it would be the,
20th.
yep, November the 20th.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
Do you want to go ahead and schedule December or no?
We probably should, just while we're talking about it.
Should we have one?
Christmas Day is on the 4th Wednesday, so.
It sure is.
So we will just plan for the 18th if we do have any applications?
Yeah.
Good for everybody? Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
All right, with that said, I will make a motion to adjourn.